On the surface, it looked routine. The Cleveland Browns beat the Philadelphia Eagles 22-13 in a quiet preseason game. No playoff stakes, no last-minute thrillers, just another warm-up for September. But inside NFL headquarters, chaos. Phones rang non-stop. Executives rushed into emergency meetings. Media partners went from planning to panic. Because the scoreboard didn't just show a win, it revealed a truth the NFL has fought to hide. Millions of fans aren't watching football anymore unless one rookie quarterback is on the field. And when the Browns benched him, 3 million viewers vanished instantly. Let that sink in. The second Shedeur Sanders didn't step onto the turf, 3 million people turned off their TVs. For an ordinary fan, that might seem dramatic, but for the NFL, a billion-dollar empire built on viewership, that was an and the league knew this day might come. They had warned Cleveland. They invested millions marketing Sanders as the face of the future. They built broadcast schedules and global campaigns around him. Then, days before a nationally televised game, he gets benched. Not because of injury, not because of poor play, simply because the coaching staff wanted him to rest. That one decision sent shockwaves through every corner of the NFL's business machine. Broadcast contracts, fantasy platforms, gambling revenue, sponsorship deals, even international expansion. And the numbers don't lie. In one night, a meaningless preseason matchup became one of the most expensive PR disasters the league has seen in years, because the NFL quietly tied its future to a single player. And when he wasn't there, everything crumbled. The warning signs had been there. Just a week earlier, the Browns faced the Panthers in another preseason game. It meant nothing in the standings. Yet because Sanders debuted, 8.7 million people tuned in. That's playoff-level traffic for a preseason game. Fast forward to Friday night. Same team, similar time slot, bigger market opponent. But when Sanders was ruled out, viewership collapsed. 5.8 million. That's not a dip. That's abandonment. Nearly 3 million fans gone. Overnight, industry insiders called it the worst preseason ratings collapse in 7 years. Some labeled it an abandonment event. By halftime, viewership fell another 18%. People weren't passively bored. They were actively switching channels. By the fourth quarter, it was a ghost broadcast. Executives on post-game calls sat in stunned silence. Ad buyers froze budgets. Streaming platforms ran emergency. The product wasn't the problem. The problem was simple. Without Sanders, the audience didn't care. Sanders didn't just appear on the NFL radar. He hijacked it. His impact wasn't gradual. It was immediate. By the time his jersey hit the shelves, he was already the league's biggest storyline. Why? Not just because of talent. He's young, charismatic, media-savvy. Exactly the kind of personality Gen Z and digital-first fans crave. They don't watch entire games. They don't care about team loyalty. They want moments, clips, replays, and every time Sanders touches the ball, it feels like a moment. The league knew this. That's why they doubled down. They rolled out massive marketing before his first NFL snap. His debut was broadcast like a playoff clash. Social media highlights were clipped in minutes. TV promos revolved around his story. Even international partners like Germany and Mexico demanded Sanders-led broadcasts. And yet, just days before the national spotlight, coach Kevin Stefanski pulled him out under the label of injury management. Despite Sanders being fully active in practice with no designation, the NFL had spent months building Sanders into the centerpiece of its next era. Millions poured into marketing, campaigns shaped around his face, broadcast schedules designed around his games. And then, nothing. For the league, it wasn't a coaching choice. It was a crisis. Because when Sanders didn't play, the entire business model wobbled. Ratings plunged. Advertisers panicked. Fantasy and betting platforms lost traction. Social media fell silent. It wasn't just bad optics. It was proof of the NFL's new fragile reality. Without Sanders, the illusion collapses. And here's the kicker. Friday night's game was actually good. Cleveland's defense was sharp. They forced turnovers, controlled the run game, and played tough. From a pure football perspective, it was textbook preseason success. But it didn't matter. Nobody cared. The cameras kept cutting to the sideline, searching for Sanders. Commentators danced around his absence. Online outrage had already boiled over. By halftime, ratings dropped 18%. By the third quarter, another 15%. By the final whistle, it was officially the least watched preseason game with playoff contenders in more than 7 years. And that was the terrifying revelation. The product itself, the football, wasn't enough anymore. Today's fans don't watch for schemes. They don't care about depth charts. They care about personalities, about viral plays. And Friday proved it. When Sanders wasn't there to give them a story, they left. The collapse spread quickly. TikTok, which had exploded with Sanders highlights during Week 1, flatlined. Instagram Reels that once hit millions barely cracked 5 digits. Twitter threads shifted from analysis to anger. NFL shop traffic dropped 40% in 72 hours. Sanders jerseys, once the hottest item, saw mass cancellations. The Browns team store faced overstock problems. Retail partners panicked. Licensees, merch reps, even holiday planners called the league. What happens if this guy doesn't play again? Internationally, it was worse. European streams fell 35%. South American engagement disappeared. Asian partners openly questioned whether the NFL could be trusted to showcase its stars. One absence turned into a global business, but when he sat, betting volume dropped over 60%. That's not a dip, that's disaster. Content creators saw viewership plummet. Fantasy podcasts lost engagement. Contest entries shrank, and that bleeding cuts into NFL partnerships. Remember, the league has billion-dollar deals with sportsbooks. Sanders isn't just a TikTok draw. He's become the face of an entirely new betting demographic. So when he's absent, the entire system loses money. For the first time, the NFL had to admit a terrifying truth. One player's availability could destabilize their most profitable modern revenue stream. And here's where the controversy deepens. Because insiders say Sanders wasn't injured at all. He was ready, practiced fully, suited up, capable of playing. So why didn't he? According to sources, this wasn't a Stefanski made a coaching decision. Bench the rookie to manage development. Translation, a reminder that coaches, not sponsors or executives, call the shots. But that one decision cost the NFL millions. It jeopardized advertiser trust, strained international partnerships, and fractured fan confidence. The tug of war was clear. On one side, the business of football, demanding Sanders play. On the other, the tradition of football, coaches protecting control. And Friday night showed just how fragile that balance really is. From his earliest fights to the final chapters of his MMA journey, Luke Rockhold's story mirrors the highs and lows of a man unwilling to quit. After the devastating defeat to Michael Bisping, Rockhold could have faded into the background. Many fighters have, after all, disappeared following a shocking loss. But Rockhold's pride, mixed with a competitor's fire, demanded he step back into the cage, no matter how bruised his reputation was. His return bouts showcased both his talent and the burden of past setbacks. Against David Branch, he reminded the world why he once wore UFC gold. Calm under pressure, Rockhold dismantled Branch with a mix of patience and power. It was the performance fans had been waiting for, a signal that perhaps the old Luke was back. But the fight game is ruthless. Against Yoel Romero, Rockhold's confidence clashed with the Cuban powerhouse's explosive style. What followed was another knockout, another reminder of how unforgiving the top level is. For Rockhold, every step forward seemed to come with an equally harsh reminder of fragility. Recognizing the toll of weight cuts, Rockhold sought reinvention at 205 pounds. It was more than a physical move. It was symbolic of a man searched, but Jan Blachowicz, who would later become champion, derailed that vision with another crushing knockout. Each setback chipped away at Rockhold's aura, but also highlighted his stubbornness. Despite repeated setbacks, he refused to bow out quietly. At this point, critics labeled him as chinny, a fighter past his prime, someone who should retire for his own safety. Yet Rockhold wasn't fighting just for wins anymore. He was fighting for dignity, for the chance to prove that the fire inside hadn't gone out. His body showed scars, but his heart kept demanding one more round. In 2022, after years away, Rockhold signed on to face Paulo Costa in what many assumed would be his swan song. Few expected much, but what unfolded at UFC 278 was nothing short of extraordinary. Rockhold, bloodied and exhausted, fought with raw emotion. He taunted Costa, pressed forward, and refused to break, even when fatigue set in. The fight became less about technical brilliance and more about sheer willpower. In the final round, with his face covered in blood, Rockhold smeared it across Costa in a bizarre but unforgettable act of defiance. Though he lost on the scorecards, fans and fighters alike recognized what they had witnessed. Not a fading star, but a warrior pouring out the last of his fighting spirit. That night, Rockhold earned respect, not through victory, but through vulnerability, grit, and authenticity. Outside the octagon, Rockhold embraced modeling, business ventures, and personal passions. He transitioned from fighter to multifaceted public figure, showing that identity doesn't end with retirement. Yet he always carried the mark of a fighter. A man who tested himself against the best and never. Luke Rockhold's career is not defined by just the belt he won, but by the roller coaster ride that followed. From the heights of world champion to the lows of repeated knockouts, his journey embodies what makes MMA so compelling. The uncertainty, the drama, the human element. His legacy is that of a fighter who dared greatly, stumbled openly, and still stood proud. He showed that chasing greatness is not about a flawless record, but about the courage to rise, fall, and rise again. Luke Rockhold's name will forever spark debate. Some will remember the arrogance, others the beauty of his striking and grappling, and many the heart he displayed in his final war. But no one can deny he lived out the essence of the fight game: to conceive, believe, and achieve, no matter how many times life tried to knock him out.